Meeting to order. Do we have a motion?
We have a quorum, so we're good.
All right, so we'll do a roll call. James Brown.
Here.
Quentin Clark.
Here.
David McCray.
Here.
David Harrison.
Here.
Mike Sorensen.
Here.
Terry Perkins. Alex Hensley. Chris Moracle. Representative for Dr. Michelle Taylor. Here. We have a quorum. I sent the minutes and all the literature for the minutes. And did everybody have a chance to read over the minutes? Any adjustments or corrections that need to be on the minute?
So
Do we have go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So at this point, we would need to go ahead and have a motion, propose a motion to approve the minutes. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Who's second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any motion passes?
First thing on the agenda was the election of a board chairman.
Well, as everyone knows, Mr. Markle has been serving as chair because he was the vice chair, so he got moved up. So, would someone like to nominate Mr. Markle for
I nominate Ms. Miracle.
a second for that?
Second.
Excellent.
Mr. Sorensen? Chris, please don't run out there. Don't run out there. We're gonna do a vice chair too.
So should y'all make the?
All
make the
in,
motion?
all in favor?
Aye.
Let's do a vice chair too.
The next is for the vice chairman.
Now we start to wiggle.
We can open this up for general discussion, if just anybody
Anybody like to volunteer?
interested, if you would like to volunteer, would be good.
Dun, 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 dun,
We can always,
dun. So you can nominate one each other, you can start.
It's a way to create enemies.
Yeah. But yeah, it's needed. You saw what this was when you know, Tim left, if you hadn't agreed to do it, you know, we've been a functionalist board, so. I mean, as long as you're around, the vice chair is kind of just not totally symbolic, as you can see. You do it.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
I think I saw a hand.
Raise your hand to me.
I was across the room. Sure, why?
yeah, I think it would be good. We would need to have a motion and
Yeah,
consider
absolutely.
that, you know, Quentin is there serving and in LGW, so I'm sure he would have some good input as a vice chair.
Would you make the motion, get a second?
All right.
Thank you, Quentin.
Anybody like to make a motion that Quentin Clark be the
I
vice?
make the motion that
Chair.
Quentin Clark be vice chair.
And I second.
Congratulations.
Just to check, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It sounds like that motion is passed, and we now have a new vice chair.
And then we're completely functioning. We got this right. You know, we had to do this because with Tim gone, we're basically kind of floating. But you've done a great job, done super job. Cool. Thank you. Thank you both of you.
All right. First, the first appeal on the agenda was 329 North Collierville Arlington Road, but they are not
I'm
here.
gonna double check and stick my head back in the door, we'll maybe that was it. They're not here, so I'll bring 329.
So we're gonna go with the second on the docket, I'm sorry, second on the agenda, 8061 Jack Bond Road.
Yes, do you want to give some guidance to what we're looking at here?
This appeal is for Ms. Candace Marshall, and she's appealing for a water well for farming, gardening, and livestock where public water is available at 8061 Jack Bond Road.
Well, welcome to this board. As you know, the county is responsible for groundwater and groundwater quality. We do have in the state some very fantastic water and some of the best in the country. You have petitioned for a well, and we would of course like to hear a little bit more about yourself and what you have in mind, somewhat described here, but we'd like to hear personally. The county has a requirement, and the regulations say that, you know, there's a certain well size. If there's NWW water, then they're responsible for denying it, and that's why we're here to just kind of understand the situation and see if it is permitted or not, or if we feel like that would be a good usage of our water. So, if you would, please introduce yourself and explain a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Okay. My name is Candace Marshall, and I have dreamt of having a farm my whole life, and we have 4 kids. He's actually a family friend, not my husband's not here. But this kind of all started as a dream, and it's been a big learning curve where it's hard but fun, and I really enjoy it. We purchased this property and planned on building, and then COVID hit. And the expense of everything going up has really slowed the progress down for me, and having funds available to do things a little bit quicker. So we are not selling our current house and not building on this property anytime soon. But I still need to have it helped where it's, not right now. Okay. Yeah. Short-term plan, currently I have 87 blueberry bushes there. It used to be used for farmland, not all of it. If you go back to the aerial photographs, you can see where it used to be, different parts of the property were used for it. So we have cleared just a little bit of the overgrowth, and I have blueberries there and peonies there. I have 802 peonies there. We are working on it slowly but surely. We currently have goats, but not at that property. And I cannot bring them over to that property to help clean up the brush overgrowth until we have a water source there. And when I think about bringing city water all the way back to where the plants are, it's, everything meets the criteria where I should be able to get a well permit. Not only that, the overall cost, it is a lot better if I can more feasible for me, you know, it would cost a lot more in the future as well. But on another side note, it's so much better for the plants. And I really want to try and practice. I'm learning as I go and really trying to practice regenerative farming and really make a difference for my piece of property. I want to help the wildlife and you know, not ruin the land. I want to improve it, and one of the ways to do that is to work on the soil health, and regenerative farming and moving livestock around rather than just keeping them in one area also helps with that. And I can't move my livestock over there because there's no water.
So the property that we're looking at now, I believe is correct me if I'm wrong, all right, it is right here in the center, this kind of tree property.
This
Yeah.
part right here.
And
Yep.
there's city water available coming off the road there. I can't read the name of that road, but
It's Jack Pond Road, and the hydrant that I saw when I inspected it is just about 100 feet maybe from the curve. So, just bring the cursor slowly back around the other direction, right there. More or less there is a hydrant.
so there's probably a water supply there, and that's why. you know,
That's not in question, that there's water supply.
Correct. So there's a water supply, and right now you're looking for, it looks like 25 gallons per minute, so maybe not high flow rate at this point.
It's for, the water use rate will increase over time as the livestock population increases and the plantings increase. And that's the long-term concern. The short-term concern is just getting, you know, a reliable, independent supply of fresh water on the property to meet the current demand for the plantings and the livestock that she has at another site, because there's no available water. That's short-term. Long-term, it will expand. There's 124 acres there.
So at the other site currently, you have livestock, there's a water supply.
Well, and here's Bartlett.
I'll say you as part of
Right.
the team here. But you all have a site that has water at it currently,
It's her home here in Bartlett,
okay?
or in Bartlett.
So you have water there, but
Yeah.
as far as getting water out here, you don't have, there's never been any water on this property, is that
No.
correct? There's never been a well on this site, but it's been used for agriculture before, correct?
I can't speak to that.
I have not been able to find any documentation, but looking at aerial photographs, I did see where they had fields, like if you want to go back, I don't know if you can on that site, but
So what here, it looks like 2005 is maybe the oldest.
yeah, so I would just go to Shelby County Assessor's Office and go back to layers, and that's where I would find it. But there's no power, no well there. He's not growing the same crops as I am, or he wasn't.
He's the previous landowner?
Yeah. Yeah, his name was, all that I can find is that it was Amos Coleman, and the aerial photographs, it looks like it was more cover crop or hay, you know, something like that.
It's rain-fed agriculture.
So this last summer, I had 30 blueberry bushes there. You know, this is all me learning as I go. 30 established blueberry bushes. So they were already like 5 or 6 years old. I would get a tank of water from my current house and drive over there every single day carrying that tank. It was very intense.
So how many, as far as that, was like a 300-gallon tote, or was this like,
No, it was like 160.
so you have to give 160 gallons to your blueberry bushes every day going
During
back
the
and forth?
during the summer drought, yes.
And how, of course, that was city water, it was, but any idea how that affects your plants? I mean, how how does well water versus city water affect your
Right,
plants?
there's a lot more additives in the city water. There's fluoride, there's chlorine, there's lots of harsh chemicals that are added into the water, and it does not help the plants. The well water is a lot better for plants.
And you need to
And
water
honestly,
them
for
daily. They
people
need
too.
it daily. In the current environment, in current agriculture of the heat, you need enough water daily to water them.
Well, hopefully it'll be a different situation going forward and not like this last summer, but, you know, I don't want to have to rely on rain or city water. You know, I want to be able to have this accessible. And even, there was a house over on Pleasant Top over there, over to the left. It recently burned to the ground because their main line broke at 1 a.m, or it was midnight or something, and they lost, he had no water pressure. They lost their house.
You're saying they were connected to city water.
Right.
And it wasn't able
Right.
to supply enough firefighting capability.
Right, because the water main broke.
So that's cautionary tale for them.
But would your 25 gallons per minute be able to supply that either?
I don't know, but it makes me feel better that I would at least have some sort of backup, you know, it's, at least I mean, heaven forbid anyone's in that type of situation, but, you know, but.
Referring back to the letter, the petition that Candace drafted in the first place, part of the long-term goal is just self-sufficiency. That's an important aspect of this whole vision that she has for Hope Ridge Farm, is to be self-sufficient, independent, not dependent on the county for the water supply. And it's more of a philosophical question, you know, lifestyle issue, you know. And then, you know, her husband supports her in this, but she's looking at this as her business, her enterprise, and her desire, you know, to be self-sufficient and ecologically, environmentally sustainable and conscious begins and ends with a source of pure groundwater. And like you said, and like it's cited in the letter, Tennessee Groundwater Commission has stated that we have some of the best water in the country, and abundantly. So why wouldn't somebody want to tap into that? You know, for long-term development project. So that's basically what it comes down to. She wants, you know, there's abundant groundwater. She has financial means to focus on getting the water supply and the power supply in place to develop this property as they can over time. Family operation, woman-owned, and as sustainable and equitable as you can make. That's really the petition.
I have a question for the county. How would this be if they just decided to build a house there? I mean, what would even though there is city water here, would they have the right because they have a house there to put a well in, or how does that affect this ability to grant wells from your standpoint at all?
Well, since she's on 125 acres, depending on where, well, she can have, multiple water wells, or she can apply for multiple water wells. It doesn't mean that they're gonna approve it for, one can be for irrigation or agriculture, means, and then the other can be just strictly for residential. So with that being said, she's only trying to do the agriculture part. So we have granted wells for those purposes, and the houses come later. But there was a plan for it. Am I right, Larry?
Yeah, it all depends on where the placement of your house. If there's a, we go back terrain, there's a gullies or whatever, if you say half a mile back there, it's just, and we'd say, okay, you can get a well. So the placement of the house matters. And then of course.
In terms of the topography.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the distance matters, where this, we kind of consider this, your needs for your water start right beyond that property line, which is where the LGW water is.
So I have been working on this for quite a while, and it's just been pushed off. I've been my hands have been kind of tied. I didn't realize how hard it would be to get a well in Shelby County. So at first I tried to get a well company to come out and give me a quote because I wanted to look at my price options, you know, all the differences. And then as I started getting into this more, I learned and really got into, wow, this is so much better for the plants also. So it made me want to push for it even more. Well, a well company won't come out to Shelby County, or I've had a very hard time finding a well company to come out to Shelby County in order to give me a quote without a permit. And then I talked to, I applied for the well permit, and my hands were kind of tied because they also needed the well company to help with the application process. So my hands were tied, and then I had to wait like 4 months for a soil test to be done, just in the case that we possibly do build. And so I had a gentleman come out and do a soil test, and I said, well, if we do build, I mean, it's 124 acres. I think we might build here, but I don't know for sure.
Where did you test? You know, you wouldn't have tested the entire property. Did you have a general spot picked out for his house?
Yeah.
Where was that? Oh, that's.
Well, if you go back to the aerial photographs, it kind of clears it up as well.
That's
Can you go-
expanded view, then you want them to pull in a little bit, because isn't that Jack Bond Road
Yeah.
that's curving right
That's
there?
Jack Bond right
So
here.
Right.
can you by chance go to the historic layers and go back any further?
And then was it
Is
a
it
perk
six-
test or was it a
What year?
structural test?
So go to
They have a-
71.
So, was
1971.
it a high intensity? soil
Okay,
test?
so if you, yeah, exactly, so go
For
up,
construction purposes.
yeah.
See if
So if you pull up the, yeah. So he tested pretty much that whole area that was clear in the middle.
Yeah, but that whole structure.
Mhm. That whole, yeah. He tested the fields to the right and down to the left. And everything was fine. Honestly, I don't know if we will be able, if and when we do build there, I don't know if we would even be able to afford to get power and water clear back there. So it might have to be further up towards the street.
What'd you say it was about right there?
Yeah, that's for the
20 feet is that?
For the fire hydrant?
955.
Almost 1,000 feet.
Yeah, because it wasn't 800 feet, we measured that.
Yeah, and so he did a few different testing areas and
Do we have, does anybody know an estimate on dollars per foot, what it would cost to lay something like that? At $5, $1 a foot?
$80 foot. I'll bet.
$10
I don't know
foot.
anything about it. No, it ain't that.
Well, without the permit, you know, she couldn't get an estimate from the well, so
Right.
it's really kind of a vicious circle, or catch-22. You know, kind of a permit.
So well siting, has that already been requested? Where are they trying to
The
site?
spot
the
she's
well?
actually looking at is, over 1,000 feet from the street.
So she would
and-
not have to have the expense of laying the water line and have water that's free of chlorine for the plants and the roots and things like that. And right now you're at 25 gallons per minute. And the depth of this well is 220 feet. Now, I made the mistake of not including some of our experts in the audience. I think we have the right to do that. Is that correct? We could ask them. At 220 feet, some of the folks from the Caesar, I don't know who to ask or who to look to specifically.
Got the blue shirt.
Excuse me, one moment. Where did the 25 gallon per minute?
It's on the application. It's on the
On
application.
your original application? Oh, okay.
So I don't know that 25, again, if you have a future expansion and more agriculture, you may have needed more water than that, but, so that may be a
Well-
point of consideration for y'all as well. Depending on whether you go plants or animals, it may dictate,
An increase.
the increase
Right.
of your water.
One important consideration in the plan that we're developing right now would be drip irrigation as a conservation measure, so that you're not actually doing overhead or furrow or you know, a more traditional means, you know, to conserve the water. And then, you know, on a rotation basis, you know, watering parcels, you know, each day and coming back, then we think 25 gallons. I think, just sitting here back in the envelope, I think 25 gallons is plenty for that type of drip irrigation. It's not like they're doing row crops on 120 acres and we're pumping water. You know, it's the reliable source.
So currently you're planning, you're thinking that there is some conservation measures in terms of
Certainly.
the
Right,
means and methods of irrigation.
Yes, because it's got to be economically viable too. I mean, that's, you know, the cost, the upfront cost of drip irrigation may be high, but the downstream benefits are immense, you know, for water flow usage and things like that. But it all comes back to having a source of water in the first place.
Okay. So now going back to our
And then what was the question that you wanted to address over here? I'm sorry for
Can I
interrupting.
make just a statement of clarification, because we also deal in septic in our group? You're referring to drip irrigation strictly from the standpoint of irrigation, that's not
Right.
your septic plan?
No.
Okay, I just
No,
wanted to
no,
make
right,
sure
no,
that
we're-
was clear for.
No, septic's
our
not,
team.
we're not.
Right, I know,
that
there's
yet,
also
you know.
there's also drip septic, so just from our
Right.
standpoint, I want to make sure that was
No,
clear,
no.
thank you.
And then, as long as you brought that up, what's the criterion for distance from the well for septic? Is it 25, 50
100 feet.
100 feet.
100 feet in Shelby
And
County.
that was measured as well, and
Okay,
that was clear.
so that's a good point, you know, there, you know, just in the siting of everything, you know, well versus residence, and then everything that goes with that for septic and things. So of course, we comply with that.
Yeah, that was taken in consideration, when I went out, because Ms. Candace had told me that the soil guy had been out. So she showed me the area and I was like, we're gonna stay strictly away from what he did. So that, you know, when the house did get built, it wouldn't be any problem with
Right.
the well.
Okay, and then what was the question that you were?
just how the impact of say 25 to 30 gallons on aquifer. I mean, we're
Not a blip.
not a blip.
Not a blip.
Drop in the bucket,
Yeah,
less than that.
it's, if we're pumping, if the utilities are pumping 750 to 1,500 gallons a minute, 25 gallons,
Can
is it gonna make a dent?
So I also filled out that application, you know, quite a while ago. And I'm learning as I go, is that going to be enough for what I need?
25 gallons?
Like, I don't know enough about water and 25 gallons a minute. That's pretty, okay.
So your friend who's a consultant, I suppose, you know, is suggesting that if you alternate different quadrants at different parts of different days that you would have, that would be enough, but.
Well, we're not speaking strictly of surge, it's just water rotations, I know, just water irrigation, just all those surges are a possibility.
Okay, so now, in another thing, and I know that this is a very small amount, and we've heard from Caesar, right? That this would be a blip. But of course, what we're also considered, and yours is not in the case, but we like to consider, the county looks at that contamination in the area, and does your well, would it the drawdown enough of the aquifer to draw contaminants? I don't believe that we're there for that kind of problem.
This is a class 2 well, so it's small well, that doesn't,
And I think that either the petition or in the notes, it mentioned that there is a exception for livestock, correct? And provided there's a reason for example, agricultural, having water without chlorine fluoride in it, that we can prove that. Does anybody, y'all have any questions? I've asked a lot of questions, so I don't know that anybody else has any specific questions. Would we like to make a motion on this petition to approve or deny this well? And if so, do we hear a motion to do so?
How much actual land are you looking to use for agriculture, flowers? I mean, is there
Only around 10 to 15 to
Okay.
start, yeah. If that, I mean, the livestock, once I get them over there, I can have it fenced off or start working on the fence, because me and my husband are mostly doing this ourselves, and so it's just taking a lot longer, but, I plan on them helping me, the goats help clean up the brush, so I don't have to.
Didn't you tell me about 7 acres under cultivation?
Yeah, there's already about 7 acres under, that's already planted out. And then I use, probably about an acre for annual fields. But those other acres are perennial. But I can even still rotate the livestock through those perennial.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve.
So we have a motion to approve. Do we hear a second?
I'll second.
We have 2 seconds. Whoever you choose.
I heard Alex.
And Quincy.
Okay, so we need to now take that to a vote, now that we've had a motion to approve it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion is approved. We can approve this well, and we do hope that you the best. We wish you the best, and hopefully your blueberry crops will nourish lots of kids, and however it works out, goat milk, goat cheese. Maybe
Blueberry
some-
goat cheese. I got some in the refrigerator right now. Blueberry crusted goat cheese.
Freezer blaring up.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We won't take up more of your time. You've been very kind and patient. We appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
And just, you'll have to get with the county and work out all the details,
Sure.
deciding still.
Certainly.
And you may have to, if you have to ask for a slight bit more, I mean, we're at 25 gallons, I think I'll be happy with.
Thank you so much. This is a dream. You can all come out to.
I always expect blueberry goat cheese at some point. Like it or not.
Yeah, let's tell the others, come on in.
Sure.
Next.
Yeah.
Next one is this one,
The last-
recycler.
The last one, the last one was just.
I'm gonna switch it. Oh,
This is the last one, Jeff. Hey guys, come on, have a seat.
and it looks like this next one is, an appeal at 0 Bendy's Town Road, and that was shown a minute ago, I think.
Right, I know, I was trying to pull it up on,
That fancy stuff.
Another car wash.
And so that,
Down by the car wash.
Impound lot.
right, I was trying to pull it up on another site that makes it easier and more up to date. Is that what it looks like today?
Yep.
You're good with that, Veronica?
Yep.
Okay.
so this is an appeal for the permit where the well has an applicant request to place is 2,300 feet from the present MLGW connection source. The cost of piping and stated would exceed the cost of the construction of the well. Well is needed for dust suppression and fire protection for the facility. The lot is located at 0 Bendy's Town Road, Shelby County, Tennessee. So the first thing, we kind of introduce ourselves a little bit. We're the county board for groundwater, and we're really involved in the quality, making sure that all of the wells that get drilled, larger wells, don't impact adversely the good quality water we have. We have some of the best water in the state, and we like to keep it that way. And it's really, really fortunate that we do have such good water. You have applied, and there is a requirement in the ordinances that at a certain size well, it has to be appealed, and based on conditions that you're within, I think, 1,000 feet of the MLGW water source. Based on that, we are going to just kind of discuss and go through your application and what you need and see where we're at in terms of this well and where we can go as far as approving, and we'll have that as a motion hopefully at the end of this discussion. So if you would, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your well, what's your enterprise, what you're doing, and why you need this, and how this is going to help you all out.
I'm Marvin Frick. The company that we work for is Eco2 Recycling and Redevelopment Company. We recycle material. It's a construction demolition landfill. And of course, we try to keep it's a requirement that we keep the dust down. We do need water there for fire protection also. We wanted to put the well down. Miss Veronica came out and we picked a spot, and that's where we really need the well for, or the water to be at that particular place. And it just, now, granted, MLGNW to the property, there is a water, MLGNW does have a place within 1,000 feet, or where we could put a meter. But where we need the water is about it's 2,300 feet from there. Be a considerable expense piping that water from the meter to where we need it. Not only that, a 4-inch meter. 4-inch meter was just about the cost of the well, the meter itself. So that's why we appealed. We'd certainly like for your consideration that we could put the well in. But I guess questions. This is Dan Nesbitt. He's the president of the company of Eco2. I was the president for a good many years, and I retired, but he didn't completely run me off. Smart guy. So, anything else you got?
Nope, we're open to any questions you'd have for us.
All right, with that, we would like to open the floor to any discussion from the board members regarding this well, any questions or further clarifications that we would need to consider this motion to approve or deny this well. So any questions out there, we'll just...
I have a question. Just given what this is going to be used for, can y'all share more why this water wouldn't just come from the river?
Okay, that's been a consideration. As you can see there in the picture, that river right there next to it's the Loosahatchee River. We haven't researched this, but I have been in cases before. If we pull that water out of a river, then we come under TDEC's water quality. And that water then we have to prove that it's as clean going back into the river as it was when we brought it out. So I feel like, and not only that, the economics of pulling water out of the river, of course, is free, but it needs to be filtered before we put through any pumps because it's quite silty. But I hope that answers your question.
The first question or one of the statements that you said is that this is required, dust suppression.
It is.
Your business, can you explain again your business, what are you exactly, you're recycling? You said
Okay,
recycling?
the name of the company is Eco2 Recycling and Redevelopment Company. And our main business is a construction demolition landfill. It's not a class 1 landfill, it's a class 3. We only take demolition material. And we have, there's certain stipulations that the city and county, the air quality puts on us. One of those is we have to have dust suppression. Today we're hauling the water about 2 miles to get to the site. We are using MLG&W water to get it to the site, but it's a great expense too.
Using a temporary meter?
Sir?
Are you using a temporary meter?
We're using a meter that's, temporary on the side of a fire hydrant. Take it in every 3 months, they read it, and we pay.
That's how that works.
Those dust regs are our regs too, that's our requirement.
So that's Shelby County Health Department, air quality.
Air pollution control. Yes.
So they have regulations to keep down, and what method are you using of this dust control? How exactly are you controlling dust?
We have a quite large truck that has a tank on it that it holds about 7,800 gallons, and it travels around and waters the road down. It also has a water cannon on it if we happen to have a fire, while we can use it. We also keep a trailer truck tank there at the site with another 8,000 gallons of water on it, just in case we need it quickly. But it has to come a good ways. He has to fill up, go back there, water the roads down, go back. So it would be certainly handier for us. It would be quite a savings for us if we could have a well.
So currently, is this mostly used for the road, or are you like smashing up how are you recycling the wood? Are you like smashing it up and turning it pulp, or what?
Okay, we presently, if it's just green waste, we have two methods of disposing of that. One is to grind into a mulch, and we do have, which is permitted by the county, is 2 incinerators. But we can only run those incinerators at certain times of the year. We can't run those. There's really a lot of rules with those incinerators. So that's, yeah.
The county, can you all kind of clarify the requirements for the dust control piece? Can you kind of explain that?
Water is the dominant means. This comes up in asbestos removal program all the time. Keeping water on a project. You see, they're wrecking these buildings. You can put up a water cannon to keep the dust down. It keeps hopefully the asbestos and everything else down. But water is the prescribed method generally, and in an operation they can't otherwise avoid dust. And then also the incinerator, also just FYI, that's also one of our permits as well. We put it under the minor source program here.
And how long has your recycling operation been, has this piece been in the recycling operation?
Okay, we've been in the construction demolition landfill business since 1980. Not at this particular site. There's another 35-acre site that's just south of this particular site that's a closed landfill. We've been at this particular site since 2006.
At the other site, well, how are you handling water needs? Were you already had it available there where it wasn't difficult for you in the distance?
No, we've always had to use MLG&W water.
What, temporary meter? Or were
Yes,
you,
temporary meter, yes.
So now that you got a water tank, so are you using the air gap method when you fill it up? How are you doing it?
To fill the
When you fill your tank up, how are you doing it?
the water truck,
Yeah.
just the pressure out of the fire hydrant.
Do you have a backflow or do you have a air gap?
You're over my pay grade.
Basically a pipe going to the top of the truck. Especially a pipe, usually when it's piped in, it goes into the top of the truck and there's a gap in between the inner and the pipe coming in. It's an air gap.
Okay. What I'm looking for is for this cross connection, we're trying to make sure we're protecting our water system at the same
Yes,
time and nothing
yes.
comes back on this.
And as I understand it, if we went with the MLG&W source, we'd have to put a backflow
Correct.
device in there. And as I understand, we didn't price one out, but as I understand it, they don't give them away.
No. And you gotta make sure it don't get stolen.
That's true. If you can find one.
Yeah. So that's the reason I'm asking all the questions. So
Sure.
are you going to then, if that matters, because are you gonna take the same method if you have a well? How are you gonna protect this, the well protection and everything on the site?
It would fill the truck the same way. There'd be that gap that he was talking about there.
So currently, how many gallons are you using, or how many truckloads are you doing a day? And I know this is gonna vary, let's just say the hot season.
The real
July, August.
middle of the summer. I asked that question to our general manager the other day, and he's, in total, was 4 loads, about 1 every 2 hours. So that's about 30,000 gallons a day.
On a bad day.
On a bad day, yeah.
Worst case scenario.
Not even that.
The next question that I have, and the question is, what's the elevation of the proposed location?
They're good, it's a high mound there that's out of the 100-year. That's the first thing I looked at.
The,
a month ago.
yeah.
Yeah, they're good.
All of that's over the,
Yeah,
I think Miss Veronica, we checked that with them.
we did, Veronica done that too. This has come up before, by the way, so you know, we've made people build towers to get the well up out of it. You're good on that one, on that problem.
And do you have the approximate cost on installing your 2,500 feet of line? I mean, what the plumber's says?
$60,000.
For just installing the line.
Just
not
the line,
meter
not
or
the meter.
backflow.
And I think the depth stated is 300 feet, is that correct?
400, I think.
400 feet, okay, so now we're going back to, I feel like going back to Caesar here. 400 feet in this area, is that a reasonable depth? And if it's up high, do we expect any kind of problems from possibly contaminating the groundwater from this? I mean, what would be Caesar's concern from this standpoint?
That's a loaded question.
It is, yeah, it is, but. Yes, sir.
Depth-wise, you're fine. Like 400 feet should get you down past the confining unit, if it's there.
Right.
That's the thing.
Yeah, the well driller that we talked with, I don't know if he drilled it or he knew about it, but at the North Treatment Plant, they put a well down and he was a little more than, right at 400, maybe a touch more than 400 feet. So that was the reason he gave the estimate of 400 feet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 400 feet should get you down enough. But once you get towards the Mississippi River, that's where you start seeing holes in the clay. So, and those are, I know there are debris landfills over there, and I actually did the phase 1 over there for TDOT I-69 project many years ago.
Yeah.
And we did geophysical survey on here. So, again, I don't know. They're landfills. They're old debris landfills. I don't know. I can't say what's in them unless you drill it and find out.
So,
And that's, but yeah. So I can't make that decision for y'all.
Okay, so the point you think that you're making is that part of the well would penetrate through an existing landfill, is that correct?
No,
I know,
no, it would
it
not.
won't.
It would not.
It's on the edge of it. They have specific cells. You can see the cells outlined there.
Right.
And then the cell they're currently working on, I believe, is the one to the north, just north of
It
the
is
towers.
There you go.
Yeah. So they were just starting that
Up
when we
here.
were working out there.
But you're speaking to the holes in the clay, right?
Yeah. So if you
And
go,
that being close to the
like-
landfill.
like, I have no clue. It's the Mississippi River. I think you're off the bluff in that area. So anything like what you saw at TVA, it meanders, it cuts through. So it's again, what's there is there already. What they're going to use is what they're going to use. So it's kind of it's up. That's it.
The volumetrically, they're looking about 30,000 gallons, which again, I think is not a huge volume, but just to, know what is there and how that affects, again, it's all about the aquifer, protecting our water. So yes, you had some points, go ahead.
Yes. If you're familiar with any landfills, either class 3, class 1, we have, presently we have 8 monitoring wells through and around this landfill that are monitored. They're sampled twice a year, April and October. And those reports, we'd be glad to share them with you. We haven't had any problems, or we wouldn't be here today. But we do have 8 monitoring wells. Now they are only around 55 feet. But once they purge those and sample them, that's all the depth that we needed at the time.
I have a follow-up question on the T-deck pulling from the river. Do you know what the process is to meet those T-deck requirements to return the water clean, like you were talking about?
You've got to prove, and the reason I'm fairly confident in this is we have a dredging permit for the Mississippi, or a maintenance dredging permit. And that permit, of course, we pump water out of the river that has sand in it, up onto an upland site, and that water has to return to the river. And that water has to stand and sort of process, fall out.
Turbidity.
There you go. Let the turbidity lower on it before it can go back to the river. And we have to prove all of that, either from gates or through the sides of the structure we have. It's all sand, so as that water filters through that sand, it's really cleaner than it was when it came out of the river.
But ultimately, if you took it from either the loose, in the volume that you're using, it shouldn't be returning to the river at all, correct?
Well, I understand.
It should be evaporated, it should just hold the dust down and
But
evaporate.
they're gonna wanna know where it's at. I mean, I understand, I can tell it's evaporated. But it's, I understand, now that's, of course, you all know that's the Moosahatchee River, that's not the Mississippi River there. And, if you saw it the middle of this summer, there wasn't quite as much water there as there is showing.
It's not even loose, that's the loose edge, chute, isn't it?
No, that's the river. The chute is
right below there.
right below there.
Okay.
Okay, and so to recall to the board's memory, I think we approved a well that they had to build up just at the end of that, on the
Yes.
north side of it.
It's probably a mile, about 3/4 of a mile from there, but it was down in the floodplain.
I was concerned about that too. I mean, you could almost see a boat coming down the road, when the flood stage is hitting it,
Their tower is as big as the size of this room, and their wellhead's up about the size of this room, off of that tower we made it build.
Okay. So we do have, just as a precedence, we do have a well in this area that we have approved, and I don't know the depth on that one.
And this one's though not in the floodplain because the ground is raised there, so it's actually not even in the floodplain. It looks odd because it's so close, but it's raised ground. So it's
We do have historical pictures, I mean, the historical elevations, but when we had the flood, what year was that?
2011, when we had the
And this area was,
Big flood.
yeah, big flood, this was
On
on
a dry
the,
spot.
yeah, this was a dry area.
Yeah, I can show you pictures of the day that it crested, and all that was out of there wasn't any water.
So that's good from our standpoint as far as, of course, they would have to do things to protect it if it were in the floodplain, but I think it alleviates some of my angst, I believe, on that, as far as the location.
Chris? I have a question. Would you guys, just, if not, let's work it out later, or just want to do it, be open to letting, or Caesar be interested in maybe testing that well occasionally if that works out? Because that's something you guys would think about. Just open to the discussion, and then if you get approved, y'all can talk about it later.
We don't have anything.
We have nothing to hide.
Sounds good. No problem. If it doesn't work out, that's.
And we really don't, for dust suppression, and back to the young lady's question, we really don't need potable water. It's not gonna be for drinking water. But, of course, a well this deep would probably be suitable for drinking.
To answer your question about, we've done that before where you pump out of the river, like Marvin alluded to, though, there is quite a bit of silt and sediment and everything, and it's usually pretty difficult because it wrecks your pump housings and everything. It's not the best
It's not
option.
optimal.
Yeah. An option, but not usually the best option.
So do you have to replace the pump hosing often in that situation?
Yeah, and the pumps themselves are pretty expensive.
How often do you have to replace it?
I mean, every situation's different. We haven't done it at this site here, but.
What you'll see is after a rain or something, and you get a rush of water, new water through there, the silts get stirred up, they'll wear your rotors out a lot faster
It'll beat them.
than when it's just calm and low flow.
$10,000.
And your actual pipe itself, that'll wear
Kind of
out.
the same in sewer systems too. The more it gets, hit with those type of things, it'll eat the rotors up and you wind up having to replace them.
And we're looking at maybe $5,000 or $10,000, I'm guessing, in maintenance and
Just depends on size.
yeah.
So, question, you said your old site, you were doing a temporary meter, and you were doing it this site. What brought about the decision of maybe going to drill a well this time?
The economics of it. Well, once we've got a one-time cost plus the power, and the location's a lot closer, so we wouldn't have to haul that water the 2 miles from our loading site down where we're loading it now.
And the safety aspect of it, should you have, it's for dust mitigation, but also for fire suppression. And should you have a fire, your reaction time is a lot closer if you have the water source closer to where you need it, rather than having to travel a couple miles and do it.
Any backup in case you have the issue would be you have to go back and use the hot hydrant.
Well, we've considered, I don't know, are there any other further additional questions on this and how we should see this? In this area, do we have any contamination that we know that would be drawn in? It's a very small amount, but of water that they're drawing in. But is there any way, any kind of contamination that would be, we know it's high enough, so that's good. That's kind of protected that way. So it wouldn't be flooded or inundated. But is there any contamination in the area that we think would be brought in and cause problems with it's only 300 feet. Quentin, on the MLDW wells, how deep do they normally go? Are they like 500 to 1,000?
Yeah, 500 to 750, and we were in the probably around 1,400. That's 500 is probably the range. Some of them are 350, but a lot of 500 is a good average.
So this probably would not impact the MLDW or the potable water supply
Close to us.
in this area. We don't have any wells in this area.
They're not close to us.
And that is also a big part of our, the well-being of everybody involved, including the whole neighborhood and everybody there. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? If not, then we need to think about how we want to proceed with this.
So let me ask this question then, what are we, I know we said we had, last time was because of the livestock and things, so what are we saying is the reason, what is the, you're saying the main reason you're asking for this is for what?
The economy of the efficiency of it,
And the dust suppression and,
dust suppression.
and fire safety.
You know I'm asking the question.
Are there any, do we have any, are we basically, through the regulations, are we bound a certain way based on the regulations that we have? And
No, it's just that magic word may in there, and we're at the may. The board may approve this, so it's, you're, just the deliberation here is just what we need to do, so wait it.
I guess I'm curious with, since you wouldn't be pulling from the river and you won't have to follow those kind of discharge regulations, what your incentive is to conserve the water that you'll be pulling from the aquifer.
To conserve it, okay. Well, the first thing is we wouldn't use, we try not to use too much of the water. It's not, we just want to suppress the dust, we don't want to make mud.
It's back to the economics. We, to water it, we're not gonna do more than we have to, because we're running a water truck and have labor involved there, so. Yeah, we're not gonna be using extra water just because we would have the well there.
That would cause an issue if you used extra water for you?
Just mud.
Yeah, mud. I mean, it's kind of there's a happy medium there. You don't want dust, but you don't want mud.
Yeah.
And two, that road is used by, we'll have around 200 trucks come in there to unload every day. So they don't want to drive through the mud. They want the dust down, but we don't want to, they want to drive through it.
And not just mud, but if you use excessive water, you create potholes and other things like that, so.
so the 80 gallons, I think you're requesting 80 gallons per minute. What was the size on that well?
I thought it was
4 inches. 4 inch. I mean, and if I remember, if I did a quick calculation, I think that was running around 5,000 gallons an hour. Does that sound about right?
$30, 60 times 8.
4,800. So, and basically you need to use that, again, it would be about, I think you said 30,000 gallons, so maybe six times, I mean, if you were at 6 hours worth, something like that, is that, I suppose the interesting thing for the board to, and us to consider is, currently this is being applied for dust control, but it could be used for other things. You could say, hey, you know what? Dang, I could sell that water. I could do something else with that.
We can agree not to sell water.
But I'm just thinking of it holistically. I think it's not a lot of water to be used at this point. I don't think the concern, but I think to your point that conservation is always important. And I don't know, I looked into dust suppression before I came, and there's some fancy whiz-bang things where they have these, fans with like mist, but I know you're not necessarily doing tear downs of skyscrapers and things like that, and concrete. This is more road dust, correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay, in which case it probably makes sense to have a large sprinkler head type piece versus this more high-tech, solutions, water, do use quite a bit less water. Okay, any other further discussion? Any other concerns? Comments? we'll need to go ahead and take this to a vote. If we needed to, we could table it, but we don't have to do that. We could table it to the next meeting, or we could go ahead and make a vote on it. But we'll need a motion, one way or the other.
I make a motion to go ahead and approve.
I second.
Who was that second?
So based on the consideration that it would be more or less a 30,000 gallons, and it would be for dust suppression and fire control as needed. Of course, that case you're full bore and you're using all you got. And hopefully that never happens, but it does happen, and definitely on the mulch piles and on I-240, you've seen those flare up and go burn for days. So hopefully y'all don't have that type of product that had a problem, but if the flame got started, someone smoking, it would be a problem for y'all. We'll go ahead and take that to a vote. We had a first and we had a second. Based on the information that we have, it seems to be, like to determine if we want to approve that. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
If there are any opposed, please say aye. Hearing none, this well is approved. We'll need to work this out with the county department, Shelby County Department still, Health Department, and all the details, all the particulars, how to protect the well, how to make sure that it's functioning, and if there's some if you need to work with Caesar, if Caesar would like to work with you, it's not a requirement on either party, on either half. But if it's to each other's, if it's to a benefit, if there's some need for some further information in this area, it would be nice if you were able to coordinate if they wanted that information. They may or may not need it, but.
Take what you get.
At this point, the county, do we have any other particular business or appeals or?
Well, we got Caesar here, and we got the POA folks here. Caesar was gonna do a little talk about kind of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys.
Y'all, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you for letting us know about your operation.
Scott, do you need this computer?
If you just want to bring up the PowerPoint, sent
That
earlier.
you sent me
Yeah.
just a little bit ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's only 4 slides.
This is good. Getting educated. This is planning the future, more education. That's cool.
You go stay there in the middle, where you're going.
Oh, I can stand.
Like a laser pointer or something?
No, it's really not that big.
It's hard to poke it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of sticks so you can tap on them. Now, pay attention.
Okay, I'm just gonna make this quick because I know y'all are busy. So, we're working on with the Shelby County Health Department, working on improving the groundwater monitoring network here in Shelby County. So it's Health Department, us, and Christian Brothers University. So this is just a screenshot from USGS NWIS, the National Water Information System that they have. So these are the active wells within Shelby County, but they actually take water levels from, and that could be shallow wells and fluvial terrace deposits, and also the Memphis and Fort Pillow wells. So you can see it's kind of spread out. Some of them are just most of them are just monthly. So a lot of y'all, like Germantown has 2 continuous data loggers in the Memphis. MLGW has a mix, but I believe they come out and do at least once a month, and so on and so forth. You can go to the next slide. So, look at that. Okay, so first part of this is to expand the monitoring well network. So we're gonna aggregate all the data. So we have our own database, USGS has their database, so we're starting to compile it and put it together. It seems that we have a lot of the same wells on our list, and then there are some that we don't have in our database that they actually get, so we're gonna go out and GPS those. But again, the whole point of it is to make one file, just one list. So everybody's got it. We're working with the local office at the university, the local USGS office at the university. And we're establishing a database schema that's able to integrate with the USGS database. So we have their program that they take out in the field on their laptop, they punch in the data, it goes into the little system, and then we can send that to them, they'll QA/QC it, and then they can push it up into the endless system that I was showing you. We're also working on a telemetry device. You can see our prototype in the top left. It's our little box. So this system, we're using a couple of devices. We're using a meter device, which has a sensor that's a pressure transducer and also does electrical conductivity of the water. And then as well, it's a data logger and a telemetry system. So we just put a SIM card, it sends it up to the cell towers, and it comes into, actually right now we're using their database, their cloud system. So you can actually view it in real time. So the whole point of this would be kind of similar to what the USGS does, and have a website, which we're working on. We'll see in the next slide. Not yet. So you can see those water fluctuations. So right now we're looking at the shallow aquifer, and that's the one aquifer that has the least amount of wells. Well, it has the most amount of wells because of contaminated sites, monitoring wells. However, we don't have access to that data except from TDEC, and they sample depending on whatever TDEC requires them to do, whether it's quarterly, semi-annual, or annually. We're also going to be working with the health department to develop new procedures to identify new well locations, kind of like similar today with the applicants coming in. You know, if we put a well in, we can go out and do geophysical logging of a well. We can also go GPS it and get it into the system. And if they're willing, we can get an agreement. Typically, it's a 5-year agreement. And we can work with the USGS on this, is to actually have it a water level taken every month or whatever, but not continue. Typically, when you have a private well, you don't want to, it's not going to be continuous. Then we also need to talk with well drillers, because the way that they, I guess, complete the well is now it's completely sealed and you can't access it. You used to be able to have a small port that you would unscrew and you could throw tape down to beat the water table, but that's not how they do it anymore. So kind of need to talk to them to find out why. And then also locate and survey new locations. Again, we're going to focus around well fields. A lot of the wells that we already have are in the well fields, which is great, but you also need them outside the well fields, in between, around breaches, and look at the data gap areas. So there's a lot of data gaps in the northern part of the county, north of the Waxahachie River. Pretty much, we don't have any observation wells up there. The eastern part of Shelby County, and then the southern part is very outside the well fields that we have. So, yeah, next slide. We're going to develop more educational material. This is a new website, midsouthwater.org. It's the website. So again, the point of this is to start providing real-time water level, kind of like how's the aquifer doing, or how's the Memphis doing, how's the Fort Pillow doing, and how's the shallow aquifer doing in certain areas. So you can see how that water changes throughout the year, and look in certain areas where you start seeing movements in the shallow. If it goes down too much, you know, and it mimics kind of the Memphis wells in the area, you know that there's some sort of connection. That's an easy way for us to tell. And then develop more educational material, kind of one-pagers, make it simple and easy for everybody to understand how the system works, how we pump water from the aquifer, where it goes, and how everything's pretty much connected. Next. So this is an old map. This is from 2016, but you can see these are pretty much the sites where there's contamination, potential contamination throughout Shelby County. We use this type of database for our wellhead protection plans. But instead of just focusing in on the well fields, we really want to focus throughout the whole county. So you can see the breaches that we have, or that have been defined in the past, are in different places. So if we're looking to develop, blue ovals coming in. So we're going to start looking at probably developing in Arlington and Lakeland, maybe putting more well fields out in their area. So what kind of contamination are there? Are there any breaches that we don't know about in that area? So those are the types of things that we want to know. And with this type of assessment, we haven't really thought it all through, but it'd probably be parcel by parcel. Residential would be low, and then you'd have your sites where it'd be bigger. Yeah.
So, and I think I'm reading, it says confining layer window, so.
Yeah, breach window.
That's areas where.
Those are this was made in 2016, Quinn.
Gee, I'm sorry.
So anywhere you have some of these potential contamination areas, that's where the wells would have the most detrimental impact, is that correct to say that?
So if it's a high capacity well, yeah. Basically in these breaches, the way it works is that the Memphis potentiometric surface, or the surface of it, is lower than the shallow. So by nature, it's just going to go down. So if you put a well near a breach, you start pumping, it's going to start pulling water down.
Particularly when the draw point is below the contamination point. So
Yeah.
you.
So, say Shelby Farms. So there's a breach just north of the landfill on Walnut Grove Road. So how that works is that the water exits Wolf River, goes underneath the landfill, leachate. It's on lines. Leachate just drops into the shallow aquifer, and then it flows down into the Memphis, and then it goes up to the northwest. So. But that's typically how it works. That's a passive breach. So if you're looking at, say, areas down to the southeast or near the university, that's more of where it's active. There's active pumping going on. So you're drawing down the shallow aquifer towards almost drained pretty much. And then you have contaminated sites over in those areas. So we're gonna work on a plan to get that set up. And then the hope is, there's always the hope of having additional funding, because the funding ends at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. So my hope is to get more funding, but if not, I don't wanna just leave it as something that's not gonna happen. I want people to be able to use it, so that's, at least we'll have something that somebody can pick up later and keep moving on with. Next slide.
Oh, Scott, forget that.
Dick.
You can go back there real quick. Just as observation, it looks like most of those dots are lining up on major thoroughfares, so I'm just guessing that's what gas stations, dry cleaners, more.
Now this is historical. This is
Oh,
not-
yeah, I remember.
We just took all their data and
80s
just plotted it.
Yeah, most of such are still there.
So you're saying maybe some of that, would it have been remediated or
Could have been.
go away on somehow?
Don't count.
I've seen gas stations where they said it was clean and they pulled the tanks and then you could smell the gas half mile away and they were digging it up.
Remediation meant just pull the tank.
Yeah.
So some dirt on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Typically if you can get it all out, you just
They never do.
pull the tanks and then over dig and just say, they take your samples, it's clean, and then you fill it back up. But a lot of the sites just,
Maybe didn't get cleaned up thoroughly or didn't clean up.
or it met site specific levels that they were said it's okay, and move on.
The dry cleaning fluid thing, which was late coming, the dry cleaning, just awful. It's everywhere. All the dry cleaners are all over town, nothing sets with the time.
I always say dry cleaners are the most useless contamination.
Why did-
Did you get that on tape?
Got it.
I've been saying it for years, so I might as well.
Washing machine use it, right?
Yeah. So
Nice thing.
but now the systems are closed, but the damage has been done in the past, so But yeah, dry cleaner sites are usually no good. They just hope nobody owns one. All right, and then the surface water component that CBU is bringing with the Surface Water Institute. We've set up, we're in the process of setting up 12 locations around the county to look at the impacts of river stage and discharge and its impact on the groundwater. So a lot of that data can be used in the future for modeling, as well as looking at, how, if we can get wells close enough, if the river stage goes up, how river water goes into the groundwater system and vice versa, groundwater feeding the river systems. It also can help identify breaches in the area or windows. So that's it. That was just quick. Just want to let you all know what's going on. So I'll probably be talking to a lot of the utilities coming up soon, see if you all want some data loggers in your wells. Just a test. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do we have any other business? Yes?
Chris, could
Sarah.
I be recognized?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
Sarah,
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I want to thank you all for your volunteer service. Oh, no, here's telling me to stand up. I want to thank you all for your service. My name is Sarah Houston. I serve as the Executive Director of Protect Our Aquifer. We're a pretty young nonprofit. We've been around for about 5 years. This is a new realm for us, and we're excited to see that there's kind of this reinvigorated look at really conserving and protecting our aquifer. I wanted to kind of just build off what Scott had said. This grant came through a federal congressional dollars, the CARES Act, and so it just happened to be this pot of money that the county had access to really start to do this long sought after project, this monitoring well network program. And if you actually look, there's a really cool document from the Groundwater Board in 1997. Got a lot of really good stuff in there. I was 8 years old when this was written, so I can't say that I know much about what was going on at the time, but if you go through it, there's a lot of really good goals, objectives, things that just haven't really had much traction in the past, 25 years. And so one of those things is to develop a countywide grid of areas where development could impact groundwater, looking at monitoring well networks. And so I just want to say that there are opportunities for sustainable funding. There are a lot of things that are in the regulations that haven't been activated. There's a lot of things that haven't been updated or increased since the 90s. And this is a role that Protect Our Aquifer wants to support y'all in, to find that sustainable funding, to find these opportunities to continue contracts like this that are really necessary to understanding the quality and the quantity of our groundwater for the long term. It fits our mission, it fits y'all's mission. So, we're going to continue to be familiar faces here. We just want to know, let y'all know that, we do want to work with y'all in this stuff, and especially when it comes to that sustainable funding and where advocacy can really play a role to push the envelope on the politics side to get the resources that y'all need. Staff's budgets keep getting cut. There's no longer water testing, quality testing offered by the Shelby County Health Department anymore. And so those are the types of services that the county can provide to well users and people's drinking water supply to make sure it is healthy and clean. Those are the types of things we need sustainable funding to be able to do and serve the community. So those are the things that Protect Our Aquifer wants to support y'all in, work with y'all towards that, work with Caesar towards identifying where a lot of those needs are. So just let y'all know we are a resource for you, and you'll continue to see us. And just appreciate y'all's service to this. This is really, really an important initiative. And I thank y'all for your staff work and your time and for this moment to speak. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it. I just noticed when I was, before I came to the meeting, I was looking at the Groundwater Control Board, and there is a site on the Shelby County, there's a link to it. But I didn't see a nice convenient link to the rules and regulations, and I'm wondering if that could be attached.
They're in there, but I forget, it's a link to that link.
I didn't see it, but maybe I wasn't looking in the right, which is very possible. Is there any way we could pull that, just we type in Shelby County
And I was messing around on it the other day when we were doing the public notice, and I was trying to get the groundwater notices separate from our air board notices, and I don't know if the tech people have messed with it or not, and that may be.
Larry, whatever it is that you need, let Darren, let Ms. Wilson know, and she'll work on it.
And I would wonder also if the names are still current and that kind of thing, but, I didn't see the link to, unless I'm missing it in there, I saw a lot of his members.
Are you talking about the link to the health department?
We're blind, we're still blind.
Are you
He's
talking
talking about the link to the regulation.
Yeah, everything that governs what we do, so that we can quickly access it, we have a question
Is it
about it.
on the health department site?
Yeah, Google it, it's on the, I was gonna say, that didn't look right, go to the health department site.
He's on the groundwater board for Shelby County. So I think that's on, but I think, are you asking for a link that will take you back to where the information is?
Right,
Maybe on the
yeah,
health
we need
department?
the original, if we're gonna Google
There you
it
go.
and get that, then we
You know,
probably need a link.
because that's downtown, that's 160 to the other, that green one. I don't think I've ever looked at that one.
Yeah, it's not, he's right, it's there, but it doesn't have a link
Yeah,
to
'cause
take you
I
from
was
there
going-
over to the
That
health
one
department.
I go to our health department.
Yeah. So I think he's saying since that's available, that should be
Oh, yeah,
updated.
I thought they'd done away with that because we're all on the health department.
That's the first thing that shows up in the search engine too, so.
Yeah, and all the boards show up on the Shelby County site like that. So do we know who controls that? Is that just purely an IT measure?
Well, there's a downtown IT, and then, 'cause I was just telling Quentin, that the health department website is the one I look into, it's fairly
We can
correct.
control that one.
And we control that one, so I didn't,
160 one, yeah.
I didn't know the downtown was screwed up.
Reach out to our person to see if she can reach out to their person
Well,
to
even,
try to
yeah,
straighten
even
it
if they can put a link in there or something, or consolidate,
I'll get Dimitri to run lead on that, and make it, 'cause I had no
out. So we can just ask her if she can talk to somebody, or if, you know.
So can you show us the other one now? You said you know, but you were just.
we're just on it.
What's-
There you go.
Yeah, sorry.
How's this one different from?
Oh, yeah, well, it's,
I put
we
in
got-
Shelby County Wells, now, the Google algorithms will probably automatically
and we got the,
push that to the top, but
The well construction.
current regulations, and then this is the longest running public comment period in history. We got our draft rules up there.
I was gonna say that.
18 months, where we're going above and beyond that.
Where's the
18 months.
draft rule? Where is that?
It's got,
The red lines.
says red line.
But as far as the groundwater,
I'm blind, I can't see it.
I can't either. I guess I don't know.
I don't see what you're saying, Larry.
It says red line version permit.
Well, construction code, well, application form, is it linked somewhere?
What was on there?
You're saying red line, I don't see that.
Water rules or water well rules and regulations.
Oh, you
Maybe
click
that's
there.
it.
There we go.
Okay.
Revision red line, okay.
So there's a few clicks to get to it, to dig to it, down to it, but now we kind of know where to find it.
Yeah, it could be much better. There could be better access, no defense of that, but I just had no idea that when they started that website, they didn't scrub the big one, but.
yeah, I do think that was something I was gonna bring up, is that it would be good to have the agenda published online in advance, like their other boards do that. And so whether we can delete the other page so it's housed with the health department and it's more clear that it's the groundwater quality control board and what our process is, who's on it, when the meetings happen, and then the agenda online in advance. I think that would be really helpful.
I think you have more success if you just tell them to give a link. They have a control of their website, so they can put that information you're talking about. If you got a link
I was
over
gonna say,
there.
the health, now that's something that we can control. Now, what's on 160 is for the big main one, but that one right there, that information that you're requesting can be put there.
Okay.
Just use all the right keywords to make sure when you Google it.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was saying. I think what I would like to see, because this doesn't make it clear anything about the groundwater quality control board unless you click on those regulations. But That's what I'm saying, is it would be
So
good to
you
have a
actually
separate.
need a separate tab for
Yes.
groundwater.
To kind of, I
For
see
the
that.
board.
I understand what
For the
you,
board,
I
yeah.
understand what you're asking, but you want it here on Shelby County's website.
If that's what y'all control, so
That
that
is
y'all can
what,
like
that
publish.
is what can be
Yeah.
controlled.
Yeah,
What
so
we
if y'all can
control.
publish the agendas there in advance, I think that would be helpful.
And to that note, the person sitting there for that had the blueberries and what was it? Not azaleas, I can't remember, gardenias or something.
Peonies.
Peonies, okay, it was peonies. But they weren't clear, if it said, here's a well, if your well is this size, expect to appeal, and here's the reasons why, and kind of a mission, kind of what the, why is all this exist, it helps, I think, to help people understand, why do we have regulation? I mean, not that they'll get it, but maybe they will. Someone, why is it there? What are we doing? We're trying to keep everybody safe and healthy and, everybody's life good, but, to what degree we can do that, I'm sure there's various, how much information do you have time to create and that kind of thing, so. Initially, it may be just, there is a groundwater control board for certain wells that get appeals and things like that. Right. Some text or something.
I have one more thing. I don't want to hold this too long. Is there a way that we can establish a process that there can be public comment after each appeal, after we hear each appeal? Do we have to change it?
Is that required?
Is it required?
That we have public comment.
No, I don't think so, but I
Okay.
think it's a public meeting, so I think, I'm suggesting that we do that.
It's up to the board. I mean,
To that note, either it could be at the time or it might be more applicable prior to, because if you want to know what people are thinking about a particular well in an area, or what their concern is before it's approved, it would probably be better to have that on the front end. Maybe you could just say email comments to, and that would be, I think that would suffice what we're looking for.
Comment period,
Yeah, to give people comments, say, we posted it on the website, we gave you time to comment, we gave you notice, and there is, now, Larry, how are they currently doing the public notice? Because it has to be certain days in advance.
Yes,
30 days.
That's, was it 2 weeks or 15 days in advance? Except for, we don't do enough of these, that's why I have to keep reminding myself, the Class A wells are the big ones, and that requires a 30-day process, public notice, with the idea of being a chance to comment from anybody, because it would be in the paper, on those wells, those are the big ones. But again, the idea of allowing public comment is really a board decision, so y'all need to decide whether you want to do that or not on the smaller wells.
I see Clinton raising his eyebrows.
I mean, it's because
As the vice chair.
It's somewhat a question of standing. The people that are appealing they got a dog in the hunt, so to speak. The regulatory board has the other dog, because y'all gonna decide. And so the public has a general interest in it, but now we've created that doorway in the Class A well, meaning there's a 30-day window there where the public can comment on their bigger wells. So the regulations speak to that. So the smaller wells, the regulations don't. It's just, if you as the chair or some board member wanted to recognize someone and the board allowed it, you could do it basically ad hoc and however you want to do it.
We'll get a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the idea of having some comment in advance, like the land use control board does, and they just give you a certain period and close it off. I don't know, I think it's a few days beforehand, and then I would like to see the comments from the public, so.
I think it's reasonable. I don't, we don't need to vote on it. It's just the ability of the county to do that. So their resources and their time. Again, if you're able to put an email link, I think that's probably the most judicious way to do it. Then you just forward it to everybody on the board.
We do have an email link currently. I think that would be up to Larry and Marquila if that's an email link that we would want to make available to receive public comment.
Well, I mean, on the public notice we put out now for everybody, the addresses and a quick summary on that public notice. You could add to that public notice comments can be sent to this address.
Email, I think that's probably, texted, email, whatever, if we had a text. Everybody wants to do this instead of even emails, like.
But the way that, I got one of the regulations in front of me, but the way, the regulations are fairly open, except that they have a definition of a person who has, quote, standing before this board, and it's anyone who has a property interest, a permit denied person, it's called an aggrieved person. Any aggrieved person can bring something before the board as a matter. But as far as commenting on something, it just kind of falls back, again, going back to you guys, because it's an added thing if you want to do. If you want direct staff to do that one.
I'm thinking, I think also, we're here to serve the public at large, so, those that might be concerned might be somebody who realizes these people are underserved and they're getting ripped off and, nobody's commenting on their behalf, so I need to make a comment on their behalf. So that is a possibility that, there is some that would have some view like, hey, there's something, maybe there's something here we can comment on that we should comment on, but, and that we can ignore it, or we'll see it, we can read it, but I'm sure we'll not exactly ignore it, we'll take it to heart or consider, but, ultimately, does one person's comment change the way we direct the ship,
Well, if staff's receiving these things, we would let the board know, all right, these are, for lack of a better word, outsiders who have no interest in this. These people actually have an interest in this. Either they're affected by it, or think they're getting hurt by it, or specifically, or something like that. But
I think that makes sense. I think I'm thinking of this as, just a general vested interest in the aquifer and any kind of contamination to that. So I'm just thinking about this in a broader sense, and I think anybody could have an interest in that.
Well, that's the point, and how you cook that down to the person's interest in who's appealing the well.
Yeah, but it's, comments that we can just take insight, from. I don't think it has to be a determining factor, but just something to consider.
Yeah. We just thought of another venue to get these workilos, so we just don't. That's a great idea.
Millions of dollars,
Since people are so social media these days, maybe we can ask Joan Carr to put something like on our Facebook page as well, so that'll be another source of getting it out.
We're already on YouTube.
That's great. Thanks for taking. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Get set.
Anything else? Do we have any other comments or business? I don't know how we would do it, but it seems like we're in these meetings, we don't necessarily know each other all that well. It'd be kind of nice maybe sometimes to just talk,
I'll do like a little retreat or something. A half-day retreat.
I don't know.
Or breakfast.
It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be a breakfast. It could be something simple.
Sit around, we'll call it a workshop or something.
You can count
I
me
agree.
for
And that's the better forum to kind of talk about the general issues, kind of growth, or kind of where you want to go and how we want to do this stuff. Yeah. We all can't go nowhere unless you make a motion to get rid of yourselves.
Not yet.
Oh, yeah.
We have a Class A. We do have a Class A well coming up, and I wanted to give y'all on a couple of dates that may be good at the end of January or early February, while we were all together. If y'all have y'all agenda.
And this was my bad, technical for doing it, because it was my bad. I missed it. It was a Class A well, and we went into this thing, and we missed the 30-day thing by like 3 weeks. So that we can't mess with these regs that bad. This is stupid. So this poor person got put off an extra 2 months. So, so
Well, it's not hot now, so hopefully
No,
they're probably crying for it.
and the applicant, the appellant didn't want to kill me, but I'm sure they're not happy with me forgetting it. Well, and they just meant I should have gotten a public notice out earlier. We haven't done a Class A in a while.
Do you have dates in mind?
Actually, we've done.
We'll do an email.
Pull up the calendar on the, for everybody to kind of see. Make it big. For everybody here, does normally a Thursday work better, or Friday, Thursday, a Wednesday?
It's probably good.
Either
Fridays
one?
and Mondays are usually bad.
What are normally bad for you?
Wednesday or Thursday would probably be best.
Yeah.
I mean, for
I think
me,
so.
I'm not speaking for everybody else.
And is this time of day pretty good, 1:30-ish for everyone?
So, I think so. So we may be looking, you're saying to January, how much time, where do you need the 30-day window? Where does it put you?
It's really, realistically, it just needs to be part of the first, last week in January, or the first couple weeks in February.
Because it's the first already. So
Yeah, we're
probably
already,
February.
probably, let's just look at February.
February 1st or 2nd, or you want to go further out?
Let's go a little further out. I don't want to mess this up again. 9th, 10th, 16th, and 17th.
I mean, I don't have anything specific on those days, but.
And we'll do an email out to remind everybody we did this in case something comes up. But
So what about 2 days, February 9th or the 16th?
I mean, that seems to work, yes? I mean,
we'll just pick
So
one
we'll just put a vote
and shoot everybody.
to make sure.
yeah, you make sure, I think, you might give us a date of, just go ahead and send the email out, and then that'll give us some time to look and go, oh yeah, shoot, I was gonna get my teeth extracted that day.
All of them. They're all coming out.
Or worse. Something else that's polite company. I'm not. Can't wait. Well, while we're on the topic of meetings, this is an idea of, what would you guys think? This is 6 months and actually making it happen. Setting up just a drumbeat meeting. The groundwater meeting board will meet like the second Thursday of every other month, and just have a whole year's worth just done, and staff could cancel those meetings with plenty of advance notice if there's no appeals to be had, but that way all of y'all can have on your schedule. It's the second Thursday of every other month. You see what I'm saying? We don't need it every month, but it's there.
Yep.
And I'm starting down this road today of getting a permanent place bigger than this as a venue. Keep fingers crossed that I got a great lead. I don't even tell you what it is because it's a pretty cool place. And they're excited about doing it. So we'll see how all that plays out. It's right here, it's basically over by Agri Center. So it's fairly convenient to everybody. Okay, so if you're amenable, that way you at least have a target date, and then, a week or two out, we'll say, hey, forget this, no appeals, so don't worry about it, but you'll know. All right, well, I'm gonna start working on that in the next month or so we'll have more news on that later.
I like schedules, I don't know about y'all, but I like to be able to say,
Yeah,
it's coming, yep, okay.
And if there's no news, fine. And then a bigger place, this place, they can do 20 to 100. Plenty of parking.
Big deal.
We're backing them out.
I just hope it works out, because I think that would be better for everybody, and that way we just know, especially for the customers, you just look at it, we got this next date coming right up, blah, 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 and we meet the public notice requirements, obviously, but, yeah, good, all right, good. Y'all did more.
Yeah, sounds good, thank you for the great suggestion.
Motion to adjourn. I second that.